What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Perc Talk on the back hash. My name is
Yo.
Sid. Joining with me today is Will and our special guest of today, Carlos Botello. How's it going, man?
Yes, sir.
Good, man. How you doing?
Doing well. Trying to get my senses back after dealing with middle schoolers for the past 6 months.
Man, I know that's right.
Yeah, man. They can be tiring.
It's something else, but no, it's year 20. It was a good year. Kids didn't get on my nerves too bad, so
Yeah,
feels good.
That's funny. Last year was my year 20
Really?
for teaching.
It doesn't feel like it, does it?
It goes by. It goes by.
Yeah. But yeah, it's so I'm just kind of mentally coming down, and then kind of like I think you mentioned earlier, like got some stuff to write, so
Right.
Get that mind fresh for all that good stuff. So
it's like it never ends, boy, from one season to the next.
Yeah. Well, keeps us out of trouble, I'm sure.
Yeah, those are good problems, like when you got things, when you stay busy, those are
that part. People don't understand that. So, well, I'm gonna since Will kind of made the connection, I'm kind of gonna let him lead the kind of interview, and we'll kind of go from there and just see what happens, man. But go ahead, Will.
Yes, sir. All right, man, Carlos, man, we're definitely glad to have you on and whatnot. So, first things first, tell us about yourself and tell us what you do. What do you do in the marching world and all kinds of things like that. Just let the people know.
For sure. So, right now I'm a kind of freelance teacher. So I only teach part-time. I was 20 years old. That's why I bring up the 20 before. I was a full-time band director for 20 years.
Oh.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So and then like last year I made the decision, I'm just going to go and I'm just going to, do this thing on the side, like, write my music, do my lessons online, and do my electronic music, do clinics and stuff. So it's just been this year's been a big change in my life. Like, so also do drum corps and indoor stuff, so I'm just pretty much just run around, compose music too, I have a series of drum books that I've composed, so.
What school was
Catch me on Instagram.
Right. See, shout out the plug. What school was that at?
Where I left the last school, or where I'm working at part time now?
Or you said you were a director at one of them?
Oh man, I was at several schools. I've been at Clarksville High School out in the country. I was at South Garland, Donna High School, Rio Hondo. I've been at Naaman Forest High School. And then my last.
Where was this at?
What's that? All in Texas.
Okay.
In Texas? Okay.
North Texas, South Texas. I forget you guys aren't from Texas.
See,
See, that's the Texas mentality. Everybody's from Texas because it's so big, right?
Right. It's so much going on there because like me and him, like I'm not born there, but I was raised in Kentucky. And friends, he's in Kentucky. So, yeah. But like everybody mostly knows, I moved to Washington State. So. When I was talking earlier, he was talking when I was naming off some of the schools. That was like one of my old high schools and a school that I've been to and taught at and stuff, talking about their graduations and stuff like that. So, yeah. But yeah, man, Texas, y'all mad down there, ain't you? Y'all came in indoor this year and was like not having it.
Yeah, man, it's good. It's a big place, man. It's all kinds of craziness down here.
Yeah, I know that.
I lived in Texas for 3 years. I lived in the Killeen, Fort Hood area.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So,
by Waco.
Yes.
That's where they have all the army bases and stuff.
Yeah. When the whole David Koresh stuff was happening in Waco, I was living there around that time.
Oh, wow.
30 minutes away. Crazy.
Yeah, man. That's like, which one I was reading about the other day. Which was it? That Jim Jones at Jonestown.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it was on TikTok or something. They were talking about all that, and I was like, man, it was just tripping me out. And then I remembered, it triggered a memory about that Heaven's Gate. I don't know if you remember that one. There was another group of people I had forgotten about that, the Killeen one.
Yeah. It was nuts.
Yeah.
Now is percussion your main instrument, being a band director?
Yeah. So I'm a drummer, man. You know what I mean? Like a snare drummer mainly. Like that's my thing. But I played piano growing up. I played guitar. Like when I was in high school, I was in like rock bands and stuff, and guitar was the instrument I played. Like I didn't play drums in the band. So I've kind of like thrown different phases. I was like a DJ for a really long time, and You know, I make music now, like electronic producer. So, you know, I don't know, whatever the instrument is, I try to make music with it, if that makes sense. You know, if it's a snare drum or it's a piano, whatever you give me two, like a rock and a stick, and I'm gonna make music with that. So you know, I am primarily like, I mean, you know, I guess the instrument that I've transcended the furthest on has been the snare drum. Mm-hmm. You know, but I consider myself a musician. So.
For sure. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you kind of slipped on this a little bit, but you know, mostly anybody can look you up on social media, especially in IG, Instagram, and whatnot. And my question was really like, what really prompted you to want to write the, you know, the Rumen books that you have, or you know, what the Left-Handed series and stuff like that? Like, what inspired you to do that?
Well, man, you know, I mean, I'll be like really real with you. You know what I mean? Like I moved in with my wife, and you know, money was tight, mm-hmm. so I was driving an hour to my old job, right? Mm-hmm. And we were like on a straight up like fixed income, you know. So mm-hmm. I started, you know, I asked her, I said like, you know, maybe I'll get another job, you know what I mean? And her thing was, what are you gonna do? I said, well, I'll work at a restaurant or something on my free time, right? She said, you're going to mess it up. You don't know what you're doing. She said, you're going to make everybody at that restaurant mad at you. And you know, and it was so real, you know what I mean? She's like, you're going to be messing up the order. You don't know what you're doing over there, right? She had worked at a restaurant. She had ran a restaurant. So she knew that wasn't for me. And so she said, what you need to do is you need to think about doing something that has to do with what you do already. Like mm-hmm. branch off, right? And I was like, you know, I used to teach online lessons. I told her. I did it for a little bit. And that was like in maybe 2014, 2015, I had done a couple, and you know, it was the internet was all crazy still. Like it didn't work out. It was harder to do it. So I said, let me try it. And I picked up 4 students, and then 8, and then 10. And then I was week by week, I was making up stuff. So I said, you know what? You know, let me write them a book. Mm-hmm. And I won't write a book for my students, and then I won't have to make stuff up week by week. You know, I could just give them the book, you know, and so it came out of necessity. And I wrote that first book. And I had this girl, she's an MMA fighter. She designed my cover, and it was a super dope cover. And I put it on Facebook because it was so dope. You know what I mean? It looked good. Like she took pictures of my hands, and then somebody was like, "Hey, I want a copy. Hey, I want a copy. Hey, I want a copy." And here we are. You know, I made 20 copies, and they were all gone. And then 50 copies were gone, and then 100 copies were gone. And then I was like, "Wait a minute." You know what I mean? Like. There's a need for this, like, or interested, you know. And then I started picking up more students, and I wrote another book, and now I'm at 25 books, and it's changed my life and my family's life.
That's amazing, though.
But, you know, but like, I can't, like, you know, people always ask me about it, like, hey, let me tell, like, do you self-publish, or how do you do it, or what do you try, mm-hmm. or how do you make money? And I think if you do it out of love, mm-hmm. you know what I mean, and out of necessity, mm-hmm. you know, like. Things happen naturally and organically. That's when like people can feel that energy. Yeah. Like if somebody wrote a book and they were trying to make money off that book and trying to come up off that, people are gonna feel that energy. And I just don't think they're gonna want to support it. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's been my thing. It's like it's always been out of love. Like everything, every video I make, you know, I love doing this. If no one watched, and when no one was watching, I was still drumming. You know what I mean?
That part.
If tomorrow no one watched again, you know, I would still do it because I love to drum, you know, and I give my whole life to this. So, you know, that's it kind of came about organically, man. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And you know, one video, it was actually. Do you know what percuss.io is? Mm-hmm. Eric Caraway.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I was like getting like 25 views on Instagram, and I was just like I told you, I was doing it out of the love, and mm-hmm. and I wrote this one lick. It's called 3 for 3. And he hit me up and he goes, hey, do you mind if I repost it? And I didn't even really know what that meant. Mm-hmm. And so I had handwritten it. And so he goes and he puts it with the music, and mm-hmm. dude, it got 15,000 views. Yep. And all, you know, what's a crazy story is it, and it's getting real personal. You know what I mean? I had blocked my ex-wife on all social media, right? Okay. And it was so far everywhere. She called me and told me she saw it somewhere.
That's crazy.
And,
that is crazy.
And it's just so funny that like, I was like, okay, this is, people want to see this. That's mm-hmm. cool. You know what I mean? People can enjoy something I've created like this. I said, all right, I got more for you. You know what I mean? And it just kind of took off from there. You know?
That's so amazing, and I can attest to that stuff too. Like Eric, man, he such a cool dude, and he was so random during those times. I had a similar situation, just uploading stuff, and I'm like you, like, and Cedric can attest to this. Like, I make random videos about anything.
Working out.
It doesn't even work. It don't matter what it is. I'm gonna make a video about it just because it's fun to me to just make a video. For some reason, I enjoy it. Won't nobody see it, and it's like I don't even care if you saw it, but I made it, right? So I was like in the same mindset, and I was doing that with drumming and stuff because almost technically, I've probably been drumming longer than like. Probably Ralph Nader and them and Harvey and them. Like I've been like randomly making videos on YouTube for like decades, like a long time. And one time I was the same thing. I made a look. He hit me up same way.
I remember that. I remember.
Yeah, and he was like, "Hey, do you mind if I post it?" And he did the same. Because I was like, "Dude, what program is this?" I'm like blown away. I've never seen this program. And it's going same thing. Mine blew up. Next thing I get on Instagram, I've got like 100-some people done subscribe to my page. I'm like, first of all, who are y'all? I was like, I'm not doing anything. And it's possible because he was so cool with it. Like he even gave me a shirt, like a free shirt.
He did
because I think he moved to like London or Europe or something like that. Germany, yeah. And it could be possible. That's probably where I found you or saw you or started following you somewhere.
Same here.
Because you had wrote something and I was like, yeah, this is dope. And then, so I learned it. Then I made a video of it, put both of us together. And it was just cool from then on. And I was just like, yeah, people don't get the community we all are in and how far it can reach. And who it can reach and stuff like that. So that's so super dope though. And yeah, because I was dope though. Like, man, it's like, yeah, man, he's posting all these like cool licks on Instagram and stuff. You just look at them and then you see some of the students. Then at one point you had some, I don't know if they were Zoom meeting videos up of the kids playing stuff and learning.
Yeah, I mean, I've done all kinds. You know what I mean? What I do, man, is I'll repost anybody that plays one of my licks. You know what I mean? Anybody. I don't care what level it's at. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And in fact, the people that see them and it's not as good as someone else, I'll repost them quicker. You know why? Because I know that kid. He's worked hard on that, and it took a lot for him to put it up.
Exactly.
And it's a message to everybody out there, man. You get one time making fun of somebody like that and you get blocked. Don't get added to the block list. You know what I mean? It's long right now, man. I put up a video the other day. I'm just scrolling, man. It's almost 1,000 people blocked because you're letting me know you don't want to be a part of this community if you're hating on somebody.
Right.
Myself included, anybody. And what's the point of getting on there so you can talk crap? You know what I mean? Just enjoy it. If you don't like it, well, there's always that unfollow button. You know what I mean?
And you know everybody's an expert.
Right.
Fix this. Come on, y'all. It's okay. I promise.
I think people don't sometimes appreciate the journey of what it is to be a musician.
And they forget that they had their own journey.
That part. Yeah. For real.
Yeah, man. I mean, I love to see people like there's been now like, so, you know, it was the grid book series before. And when I first started, everybody was like those, it was like I don't even, it's not a generation, but it was like their babies. Like they made the kids in drum corps. Like they came up with the grid book series. And then I have now 2 or 3 of those now that have come up like playing my licks. And now I watch them and now some of them are writing books of their own and they're writing their own licks. You know what I mean? And it's just cool to see, man. Like that's really what it's about, man. It's like, it's like watching people grow and seeing them from when they first start, you know what I mean? You know, and just sharing all this stuff in this community, man. It's been dope, man. I'm definitely grateful and humbled every day, man.
Yes, sir.
That's what's up. I was going to ask you, how did you come up with that name? I'm kind of scrolling through the website now, which looks fantastic. So how did you come up with that name, Left Hand Path?
Well, man, you know, of course it's you know, like a play on words, right? Like, you know, traditional grip being the left hand, you know, right? And but it also, like, for me, like, it meant more like when I was coming up with the name, it was like, you know, for me, I've always gone this other way. I'm like the person that didn't read the manual, you know, and learn how to use a drum machine, just opening up the box, you know. And I have a lot of people and a lot of friends, like they read the manual and they learn how to use it correctly, and I'll learn how to use it wrong, but my wrong way. And 10 years, somebody says, hey man, you're using it wrong. And I'm like, hey, well, check it out. This works this way too. And then they're like, oh, that's dope. And then we'll kind of like collaborate, and I'll learn how to use it the right way, but like later.
Yeah.
And so, and that's just kind of how I've lived my life, man. I've always just done things my own way and followed this different path. And I believe that there's like a certain path in life if you're willing to do the things that somebody else isn't willing to do, you can get those. You can get to a higher level or a different level than somebody else is willing to go. Mm-hmm. It's just like it's taking your own journey. It's basically
path less traveled. Be a trailblazer. Don't follow your trade. Make a new one.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Another question would be, did you ever march drum corps or any independent groups or indoor, maybe high school or anything like that?
All that. You know what I mean? So, you know, I marched 95, 96, 97 Lone Star. So all the drum corps I marched before I talk about them are gone now. You know, so my 95, 96, 97 Lone Star, it was a Division 2-3 corps from Texas. Okay, and then I followed my teacher in 99 to Pioneer. So like I marched. See, I marched.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So, I like not to cut you off, but we were this close, me and you, to maybe marching together.
Wow.
Or if you would have stayed in Pioneer,
No, I aged out in 99 though. You know what I'm saying? So I taught it 2005 though.
Because it was crazy because they were supposed to be the first group that I had ever marched before I marched Scouts. I had graduated in 99. But a friend of mine, his name is Jeff, came back and was like, well, Pioneer's looking for people.
Yeah, man, we were in 99. The horn line was kind of small, you know what I mean? And we were looking for, I'm sure they were looking hard for more horn players, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Do you remember any tours through Kentucky that year?
Any what?
Tours through Kentucky? Like, did y'all house in Kentucky? Do you remember?
99, man. I don't remember.
Yeah, I know. I'm testing the memory box.
I know Pioneer stayed at our school one year. And it would have been around that time.
And that's what I'm thinking. Because if it wasn't there, then it would have been in Murray, Kentucky. A place in Murray, if that rings a bell. Because there was a connection, because we talked to someone before and they had mentioned the same thing, saying that they were there during that time. And I said it, and I was like, well, I almost marched in, but I was just so young. My parents weren't going for it. It was like, nah, we're not fit to do that. But it always rings a bell in my head anytime someone says it. So that's interesting. Oh, that would have been cool though.
Yeah, man. So I did like I said, I followed my teacher there. That's what led me to Pioneer. You know, I didn't march 98, took a summer off, and then when I was getting ready to try out or decide what drum corps I was going to try out for, you know, so once I aged out, I'd done the loyalty thing with my teacher. You know, I followed my teacher, and you know, honestly, man, we were 12th in drums, and the drum corps was like 18th, and that was like the highest that drum corps had ever finished. You know, and so, you know, it was cool, but like for me, like that was, you know, where I was at, and like where I was drumming, I wasn't very happy with that being an ending. So, you know, I had heard about indoor, like WGI, and I said, all right, cool. I did the loyalty thing. I looked around and I said, who's the best? Like, who's won WGI? I want to go there. And Blue Knights had won in 99, and I went tried out in 2000. You know, and I marched Blue Knights indoor, and
really,
yeah, we won in 2000. It was back to back. You know, it was back then. Blue Knights was like Rhythm X and Pulse, like. You know what I mean? Like they were the best, you know. So, you know, I talked about this on another podcast, and I'll tell you this, man. I won WGI, you know what I mean, and I've been in a drum corps that was 18th place, you know what I mean. And I've been in a Division 2-3 corps, and I had more fun with my friends in the Division 2-3 corps than I did winning WGI.
I believe.
And being the best, and everybody knowing we're going to win, and it's and so that's my message to all my students, man. It's like, be careful, where you go in March. Like, why are you going to March there? You know what I mean? Have a reason. Don't tell me you just want to go win, because that might be your nightmare. Like it's not everything is cut out to be. You know what I mean? And I tell people this all the time, man. You can. If you want to go medal, you know what I mean. I'll send you mine. You know what I mean. I can save you all the trouble. You know what I mean. We can get that out the way. I'll send you mine. You can have it, and then you go. Let's talk about where you're going to go march, where it's going to be a good education for you, or somebody that's a teacher that you admire, that you want to be part of their percussion program, and I think you'll get more out of that. And what's funny, man, is I got so much as a teacher out of marching in the smaller drum corps. Like, I've gotten a lot. Like, it has been a blessing now, like at this part of my career, to know what it is to come from like the gutter and like the bottom, and know like no money, no food, you know what I mean? Crappy equipment. I was about to cuss. Crappy equipment, and how to deal with that, and then you get to the upper level, and you start seeing better equipment and better stuff, and you're appreciative of it. You know what I mean? You're not getting upset at the kids, or you see a kid that's got their stuff together, and you can appreciate that. So, I see a lot of people, and they've only been in the good programs. They were in a good marching band. They were in a good drum corps. Then that good drum corps give them a job. And then, you know what I mean? And they go get another good job here, and they've worked here, and then this. And I wonder how they would deal with it when they don't get the good stuff. Can they deal with that? Can they build from not from ground, from ash? You gotta get the ash, and you gotta wet it, and you gotta turn that into some kind of clay. You know what I mean?
Listen, man, if anybody understands, it's me and Cedric. From the ground zero. And I tell people all the time, man, if you want to really impress me as a teacher, anybody can go maintain, anybody can go tech. From ground zero. I'm talking about, we have kids, this is what an eighth note looks like. I'm talking about, this is the value of I'm talking about ground zero, and then you build from the, it's another world.
Yeah, man.
It's another world.
That's teaching. That's real teaching.
It's real teaching.
We talk about that in the teacher education world, is especially these guys that are coming out wanting to, because I will get a student teacher every now and then, or I live like 5 minutes away from a college campus. So we get lots of college students that want to observe, and I tell them, I said, go try to student teach at a place to where the kids are average at best, like they're everyday kids. Like if you go and student teach at an Ivory Tower, and that's all you've ever experienced, when you get to a school, your first job is not going to be at the best school. Like, you're going to have to learn how to deal with minimal resources. You're going to have to learn how to get kids motivated to want to do. And if you can't do that, you're going to struggle, and you're going to think, well, it's the school's fault. No, you just weren't equipped with that, because everywhere you've gone, you've had the best of the best. So, no, sure. It's a real thing. It's a real thing, and it
is.
We joke around about Texas about being the epitome of what music education should be, and there's lots of gleaming examples, but there are some other places that aren't that way in Texas as well.
I'll take you on a tour, man. You know what I mean? I'll open up my resume, and you'll see some places that aren't that way up in my resume. You know what I mean? But man, that's. I was at Bowie High School, the last school I was at, and I stayed there for 3 years. And man, let me tell you, those kids needed me. You know what I mean? I was there for them. My last year there, I had 2 snares and 2 bass drums on the field, and 3 front ensemble. And you know what? We made it good. Yeah. We made it work. You know what I mean? And they needed me. I would always joke around with the head director and tell him, like, hey man, it's like this, but imagine if you didn't have somebody that has knowledge to teach these kids, what would it look like? Mm-hmm. And I told them, I bet the person that was here would have just given up on them.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta know how to teach, you gotta know how to build piece by piece, and you gotta love to do it, man. And I think if you have all those things, man, you can build anywhere, and that's what makes it cool, man. Once, like, you guys have taught from ground zero, and once you've done that, you can appreciate teaching anywhere, and you don't have to trip. Okay, If it gets down to ground zero, I know how to do that. You know what I mean? You know, roll the sleeves up, you know,
exactly.
put gloves on.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Let's go and work it piece by piece, you know, until it's better. And you don't have to worry anymore. And I think that if you've only taught it the best, you can get in that situation, you're going to be a wake-up call.
Yeah, you won't. If you're crashing out because kids ain't figuring out, then it makes you wonder. It's like, is that a them problem or you problem? Because you got to know how to deal with that. Like, they're not getting it. And back when I was still in Kentucky, I was helping lots of kids find places to teach and mentoring them. I would let them come, like say, come underneath me wherever I was and say, hey, we're going to get you going here, and then send them somewhere else or something like that. And I always tell them, I was like, try your best to find 3 ways to teach one thing. Like, because if you wind up getting a kid who can only read, but they don't know how to teach by rote, what are you going to do?
Right.
You got to know how to balance those things.
Yeah.
You got to know how to balance those
minds
things.
Work different for sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. You might have like a kid that just doesn't understand. Well, I'm over here dropping stuff.
I was like, do we need a run?
That's Tupac.
Hey, all eyes.
Yeah. He must have had a problem with something we're saying.
Like, hold on, wait a minute.
Wait a minute. Let me get into this.
Yeah. But man, like, you know, you might have a kid that just doesn't understand one approach. Like, speak to your point, you know, and I think if you can be versatile and find different ways to do it, like, totally.
I call it the toolbox, like our tool belt. Like, have, you know, like you said, have 2 or 3 different ways to teach the same concept. You know, especially, you know, being a band director, like 30 kids in a room, you know, 15 of them understand it the way that I understand it, but then I have to think, okay, well, how does this kid think about it? So I have lots of analogies in my back pocket.
Oh boy!
And all types.
They say on a rotating machine. Yeah. Let me pick this one today.
So definitely gotta be mindful about that stuff. And like I said, especially, you know, today with the shortage. I don't know how it is in Texas, but I know in Kentucky I'm having band directors call me left to right. Hey, if you got anybody that can teach percussion, please. And
I had been saying it for years.
It's slim pickings around here. And if you get somebody that can teach percussion, they can only teach drums, or they might can only teach mallets. And it's just like, you know, gone are the days here in this state where you can get somebody for each one, or let alone, like, you know, a snare tech and then a bass tech. And they're like, no, you are the percussion person. You're going to teach both. You might have to write.
Yeah.
I've done it all, man. I've always written my own stuff, man.
Yeah. So I tell people I'm a whole package. I'm a write and teach it all.
I tell people that because it's cheap. It's cheaper that way. I don't know if I'm good at it, but it's cheaper if I do it. Well, I know my kids.
It is.
You know, you can write to your kids. You can be like, hey, I want to develop this skill, and you can write the book to develop the skills that you want them to develop. You know.
Oh, for sure, man. Like, I'm big on, like, that's what I'm doing the most right now is writing. You know, so you know, I've been lucky the past two years. You know, I've written for 23 schools. You know what I mean, and it kind of keeps growing. It's been growing year by year, and you know, one of the things I try to do is I try to think about job security for the person I'm writing for. And I'll go against them sometimes. You're like, hey man, could you make it a little bit harder? I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure you want me to make it harder? It's pretty hard already. I think you've listened to it 3-4 times, and you haven't really dug in and understood like the complexity of what's going on here. I said, think about it. You got to learn your all region music. You got to learn your stand tunes. You got to learn, you do teacher development. You got kids missing. You got kids failing. I said, man, are you sure you need this competitive show, which is a small part of what you do, to be harder? I said, how about this? And I'll make a deal with them. Let's learn this. If you need more, I'll be with you all season. You know, I do all the people that I write for. I'm with you all season. I'll do any rewrites you need. You send me videos. I'll sit there with my iPhone and watch the video and make you a tape. You know, I'm with you, and I'll tell you, and I'll tell them, I'll write you more later if you need it. Like we'll beef up this one section. I know it's hard to learn later, but we'll beef up something. We'll get it going. and we'll make it right. But trust me, man, this is, I'm worried about your job, because the head director is not going to care about how hard the parts are when those kids can't learn them. They're gonna come after you. They're gonna say, how come you're not doing your job? And you're gonna say, oh man, well Carlos, he wrote a book that was so hard.
No,
you know what I mean?
Don't come to me.
But he's not gonna care. He's still not gonna care. He's gonna say, well, you and Carlos better figure that out. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, man.
I think it's something to be said
I'm the same way
for that too. Yeah, go ahead, Will.
No, I was just gonna say I'm the same way when I write. I tell people, look, you got me all the whole season. Like I cut color guard music and tell them I was fixing all kinds of stuff through this past season. But it's the same thing. It's like, man, if I'm giving it to you, I'm letting you know, hey, if something happens during mid-season, like hit me up. We'll rewrite it, whatever it is. So
for sure.
I feel that in this world of kind of I don't want to call it box, but that's what it is basically. So box shows and box books versus your customizable stuff. Could I like you two, I tell mine the same thing. It's like, hey, I'm here. If something needs to be bumped up, and I had last year, dude was like, hey, can you give this part to the outdoor sexes? I got you, buddy. Like I wouldn't do it, but that's what you pay for. Right. But I think when people go with these box companies, and there's nothing wrong with it, the product that they have is good, but one size does not fit all when it comes to those companies a lot of the time. And they say they're customizable, but how much is that fee, and how customizable are they really to what you need? A local band director reached out to me earlier, and he was just like, hey, I might use you next year. He's like, this year I already got all the stuff, and I was like, well, what's going on with this company? They're a good company. Like, and he was like, it's just hard to customize anything. He's like, I get their book, and the percussion staff is longer than the wind book staff. Like, right. Like, I only got 8 kids in the front ensemble, but there's like 37 mallet parts. And it's like,
yes.
So I think there's something to be said for doing it that way, doing it the way that you're doing it, because like then people can know, here's a person that I can contact if I need directly. I don't have to go around a bunch of other stuff to get what I need directly for my kids. So I think there's something to be said for that.
Man, and I try to be super realistic about what I charge people. You know what I mean? And then I try to always write them what they need, and it's just like, because I see a lot of people, they get scared of custom shows because it's like, they're like, okay, well, I got 8 kids in my front ensemble. I've got 6 battery. That's going to be, it's not worth $4,000. Well, man, I just tell them, what's your budget, man? Like, what's your realistic budget? Give me a number that you think's fair, and man, we'll get it. We'll make it happen. You know what I mean? I do it for all kinds of different prices and different situations. And I think, man, some people, they look at, I need this number or I can't do it. And what ends up happening is you can squeeze them for that money, but man, they'll never be able to work with you again. And you got to think about their job security too, man. If they give you that money, and the percussion director, I'll fight for it. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna go fight for it. And they fight for it. They fight with the school board, whoever they need to, and then their band's just not that good because it's small and it's, they're working hard, but it's just not that good competitively, or not that good. And now you made them sign a deal with the devil. They asked for all this money, and now the principal's like, I want results for that money. And I don't want people in that position. Not on my behalf, man. I want to help you get the best book you can. I want to put you in a position to where it's worth it. It's worth it. You go into 2 contests. Well, let's give you a 2 contest prize. I mean, like, it's not fair, man. And so I think a lot of people, they buy those box shows because they're scared at what they're going to get quoted from people. You know what I mean?
And I think a lot of them do it too. Is that either they're in some kind of situation where maybe they don't have the staff or something, and they just don't have the means to design. So they buy something that's already packaged, and it basically says it gives them less work to do. And all they got to do is now teach it. Right. And I feel you because it's one of them things. It's like, man, you didn't came to me and got begged for this money, blah blah, and these are the results from all that money that we just gave you, and y'all didn't do nothing better. So, but yeah, and that's another reason why I like to write because man, it gives a little bit more personal touch, and then I always ask my band directors like if they don't have a percussion guy, or if they do, you let me know what level you think your kids are at.
For sure.
And then we'll go there. And then here and there, I'll give you spots of small difficulty. But and the rest will be laid. It will push the horn line. It will work. It'll make things smooth. It'll keep the beat and all that kind of stuff. And they'll get recognized for it because they still got to be clean. But then they'll have their moments of pop, whatever. And and then like I said, throughout the season, you get me. If something don't work, let me know. We'll take it out. Let's water it. This ain't working or whatever. Because I always ask them multiple times. I was like, "Are you sure your kids can do this? Are you sure you can?" Because I had an issue one time with a 4-mallet part, and I asked them, "Can they do 4 mallets?" And they was like, "Well, we got this person. This turns out they can barely do it." And so I'm in my head. I'm writing all these permutations and stuff and whatnot, and it's like, gosh, y'all should have told me not to do it. I was like, I ask you, you know what I'm saying? So,
I mean, it's a hassle, man. If you give them something that's too hard, it's hard on them and it's hard on the kids because the kids have this music, and then you're telling them, oh, well, scratch this part out, change this part, and now they don't have a working part anymore, and then the kid starts to think, well, this is my fault, I'm not good enough, but really and truly, it's a design flaw. You never should have had something that hard in front of you. And so I'm real. On the first parts of it, like I ask like skill level, instrumentation, and I'm real. I take my time on that first half, like making sure that I can really understand what you're asking of me. Like, can they play 4 mallets, and then we'll talk on the phone. And man, I deal with a lot of different people because designing so many shows. With me, man, I work all the time. Especially now that I don't have a full-time job. This is my life. I work all the time, and when I'm not working, I'm sleeping. I'm dreaming about working. You know what I mean?
Hey, that's true though.
I mean, you send me a text message at 12 o'clock at night, man. I might be asleep, but it's okay. Text me. Let me know what you need. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. The time doesn't matter. If I'm done with you, I'm writing your book. It's 1 a.m. I'm falling asleep there, laying in my bed, like writing. And I'm done with it. I'm gonna send it to you right there, and I'm gonna text you. Hey, there's your music.
Oh yeah.
Hey, I'm sorry, man. You know what I mean? But I want you to know it's there for you when you wake up. So I'm working all the time, man.
My staff makes fun of me all the time. It's like they were like, "You were up late," because I'll send book. I'll get done. Click, save, email, 3 a.m. Hey, I will be at camp at noon. I was like, I am sleeping.
Right.
But you got book, so
right.
But nah, that, and that's, and like I said, that's a good way to be. That's that homegrown, this personal connection with when they know that they can reach out to you. And I kind of like what you said about, you'll write something, see what they do with it. That's kind of the litmus test. If you can go a little bit further on the second, third movement, then you can do that.
Right.
And because my kids will make fun of me. It's like, are we gonna get the closer before the end of the season? I'm like, shut up.
Right. Because I done said this. Like, said it. Where the book at?
Hey, we got it when we needed it. But it's just like, where are we at? Like, who can I push more? Or what does it look like? Some shows are better if you front load, put all the difficult stuff in the beginning, and then let them have some gas in the tank at the end so they can power through. Mm-hmm. Some shows are better when you backload them, and I've done a mix. I will front load the winds, but backload the percussion to do some different type of stuff. So all of this stuff that you're saying, I think it's hard to get. And I'm not knocking box stuff, but like box stuff isn't made for everybody. You got a 80-piece band with a 16-piece color guard.
It has to fit.
If you're gonna go box, then that's fine. Do your research. Like, know where to go. I've seen some really good shows, and I think his name's Luke McMillan. you know, and he does like stuff, man, you know, and I've rewritten some of the stuff, the percussion stuff, and I've, I've, I've even played one year during COVID. My old supervisor was like, "We're playing this. Don't change anything." You know what I mean? We didn't. The kids weren't back at school yet, so we learned it all online. And you know, man, that stuff works. But if he writes for small bands, you know what I mean? And so, like, do your research. Like, know where to get. You know what I mean? Where some people write really good for small bands. Some people write really good, like crazy hard stuff. You know, some people design stuff really well. And they sell box shows. You know, and if you got to, and that's where your budget's at, or that's where your mind's at, then do your research. And I think you can make it happen. You know what I mean?
You can.
And if you and some of these people, if you'll talk to them, they'll send you the surveillance files. They might upcharge you a little bit, but if they do that,
they do.
Get it, pay a little extra for it, and get it. And then you need to make your edits, you know, and learn how to do it. You know, you know, I think everybody should know how to use, you know, music notation software. You know, to a certain, if you really want to be an effective teacher, you should be writing stuff for your kids. You know, and if you don't know how to use it, man, get the next 2-3 paychecks and save a couple hundred and get Sibelius, start learning, write a few scales, just notate somebody else's music into it.
Yeah.
You know, and it'll change your life, man.
That was one of the first. This is probably why I like said and I've been friends for so long, because one of the first things he ever told me, because when I was trying to write, he was like, one of the easiest best things to do is to arrange something you already know. Because I was like, man, I don't know what to do. I was like, how does this even work? So I just took a song that I heard, and I'm on the keyboard. Okay, that's a B flat. And then I wrote it out. I was like, all right, this sounds like crap, but I wrote it. Right. Wrong notations and all kinds of stuff. Like, how you gonna have 30-second notes in? Like, but it rocketed. And then it just, next thing I know, I do another piece, and then I had rhythms in my head, and I started making my own piece. So now all my stuff is original. I started making original works. I actually started writing for groups, and someone took a chance with me, and I did it, and I wrote it, and I had kids actually play it. And my mind was blowing. I was like, oh my God, people are playing my music that I wrote. Like, I'm freaking out. It'll never not be cool to me.
Same here.
When I write for kids and groups and seeing it's like, oh man, I wrote this. You know, it's like, I really wrote this. And the first time I wrote for a marching band that I wasn't even teaching, and I'm sitting here listening to the horn part, I was like, bruh, I really wrote this for them. I was like, I'm sorry, y'all. But they was good though. But it's so worth it, and it just draws me back to like some of the times I tell my kids, I was like, I've had snare players and stuff go teach stuff. I was like, you need to learn mallets and stuff. And I teach a lot of times, and we do stuff where we switch up and we practice mallets. And then I tell my mallet players, you need to learn how to play. You need to get you some kind of sticks and a drum pad, and you need a pad at home. And we have all these different techniques to go back and forth to train mallet players to do this and this and this. And y'all need to understand how the bounce feel. Well, snare players, you need to understand what it feels to not be able to bounce, right? And control the hands. And when you go back to your respective instruments, it's mind blowing how the hand control and the ability to the things that they can do now. It's like, this is why I keep telling y'all, it's like, learn this instrument, because when you go teach, man, they're gonna want this. And this is just how it was in Kentucky, man. They back then, band directors and a lot of bands, they just wanted one person. It's tough, but they just wanted one person who can do everything. But there weren't enough of us.
I think the most important thing is because over at the school I teach at now, it's Arlington High School. I teach with Brian Lowe. They call him Chavez. He teaches out at Santa Clara, and he's been with Paul Rennick forever. You know what I mean?
Nice.
So he's like a master of setting up a percussion program and a culture. You know, and it's like his main gig, and I'm the assistant guy there. So I teach the drum line, and then I do a few lessons there as well, you know. And you know, the thing is, like, I think, you know, getting a chance to teach with him and him, like, he brought me in, and he didn't just, like, I don't just help him, like, he's like shared the program with me, you know. But I get to watch, so it's like going to college, Again, like watching him set up his program, like everybody learns the region music, everybody plays mallets. We do percussion ensemble, super heavy. So like everybody's a percussionist that's in the group. I've got like our section leader, his name's Noah. He plays four mallets. He's a snare drummer, but he plays four mallets amazing. I was watching him play Phantom of the Opera the other day, and he was playing this mallet part on Phantom of the Opera, and I was like, man, that's my favorite part, was watching you play the xylophone. You know what I mean? In the thing, and so I think that definitely they can't be drummers and they can't be melodic, like musicians. You know what I'm saying? I think it takes both, but I think that the first thing they have to do is learn how to drum. They have to play rhythms really good. And I tell the kids this all the time. I was like, if you play the right notes at the wrong time, they're the wrong notes. It's like your rhythms have to be right. So you have to be good drummers first. And then once you can handle the rhythms and they're perfectly in time, then you can start to branch off and say, all right, now I want to do this on a xylophone. I want to play 16 notes on a xylophone.
That part.
Right? Yeah. And I think a lot of people, they do it backwards. They want to teach them to be well-rounded percussionists at the beginning. And if you do that too soon, and you don't let them learn how to drum on a pad and play, and you start trying to teach them bells, like, oh, we're going to start with bells, this year. Man, they're not going to learn much of anything. They got to learn how to drum. They got to learn how to play eights. They got to learn how to play bucks. They got to learn how to play quarter notes, eighth notes, 16th notes, and then move it around the keyboard or move it on a timpani or whatever instrument you want to transfer it over to. I think now it's like you're locked in on that grid, which is playing in time.
Yeah, I've done it both ways.
I was about to say, that's a new philosophy.
We have a 6th grade band, but we only get to see them like twice a week or whatever. And the way that our band method books are made, if you start them on snare drum, it's kind of, it's super boring for them for a long time. So, I've had kids like, well, they're playing, Mary Had a Little Lamb and Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and I'm just going whack, whack, whack.
Right.
So, I agree with what you, and I was kind of getting to this point. In my middle school, I do have a percussion ensemble class, but there's so many in there. There's like 30 of them in there.
Wow.
Well, I don't have 30 mallets. So like to just get them engaged and get them interested, I do start them on snare. And this year, I bought a new book, The Player's Guide, from Patricia Isla. And her husband, I think they both team taught, and it's a percussion.
Yeah,
it's a
they in Texas too.
Yeah.
What's his name? Bush.
Yes.
Doug Bush.
Yes.
Doug. Yep.
Yeah.
And I bought that book because I liked it because it had different levels to it. So I just trucked them through that levels. Well, I didn't realize it, but like we got to the Christmas concert and it was all drummy stuff, and I had a few kids that could play mallet, so they played some basic mallet stuff, but like the rhythms that they were reading, like as an ensemble, they could read them fine. Individually, stuff sticks out, and you have some kids that are like, I don't really know because I'm scared, and like just hit the drum. But so there is some merit to that for sure. I think, and what I might do next year is in my 6th grade group, if I do start new percussionists there, because usually I just like, just wait until 6th, 7th grade. It's every day. I see you for 50 minutes. I can beat you, and everything's great. But maybe supplement it, or maybe move to they're going to play line 2, but you're going to be playing line 15 because you don't need to be going whack whack for another 3 weeks.
I would. Man, you're right. I would just change the parts. I would give them something, because they got to start with quarter notes and eighth notes at the beginning. They can't start with half notes and whole notes.
Yeah.
Then otherwise, at that point, if you're teaching them all. Now, I'll say this. If you're teaching them all in one class, they're playing in 6th grade beginner band, then that kind of would, that changes things a little bit. You know what I mean? Because the beginner books, if you look at essential elements, they'll start with half notes and they're playing a buzz and buzz. Yes, it is. It does get very boring. So, I supplement, man. Like I write my own books and my own material, and I'll start them with, they're doing different things than what's going on in the band.
Yeah.
And that oftentimes leads to a lot of like question marks when, the head band director at the junior high comes in and sees what you're doing with the percussion, and they're like, whoa, wait a minute. How come they're reading these rhythms? Don't they need to be reading half notes and whole notes. I was like, but they can't play half notes and whole notes on a drum pad. It's super boring at first. They got to play eighth notes and 16th notes. Like, we got to go a different direction. And then we swing back and we come to the half notes and whole notes when we start reading mallets,
or bass drum. Like, hey, here's the bass
drum. And so a lot of times they'll come in and you'll miss a day, and then they'll come in. I've had this happen a lot. They'll come in and they'll ask them, how many counts does a whole note get? And they're like, well, ask them about an eighth note. Ask them about a 16th note. That's what we've been doing every day, so we got to kind of start with that. And, so, I do feel you, like, if they're all together in one class, that would change things. But I think that at the end of the day, man, they need to drum with no music in front of them. And that needs to be like part of what they do every day, like, which is eighths and bucks and maybe double beat, and they're all of this by rote. It's drumming culture, drumming, and then they need to read music, and then they need to learn how to read mallets. So, which is the notes that move around the staff, the note names, you know what I mean? And they need to be able to recognize them, and then they need to be able to understand rhythms. So I think I try to do all of it. So we're just gonna have days where we're not reading music today. We're just doing drum and stuff.
Yeah.
And if you don't give them all three of those things every week, I think that they're not gonna progress the right way. As far as, and that's like the first year beginner stuff.
Yeah.
Even 7th and 8th grade, man. Even in high school, just drum. And I go and I do a lot of clinics. Like, I've been, man, since August, I've taken over 32 flights. I was telling somebody yesterday, actually, talking about it. Yeah, it's been crazy. My life's completely different. And everywhere I've gone, I've gone to California, Ohio, Idaho, Poland, you name it. And everywhere I've gone, people, I see all these different systems and all these different ways people do things. And I'll tell you what, drumming with them, just people always, every time I do that, somebody tells me, hey man, I haven't done that in a long time. I haven't just drummed with them. We've been learning this music or that music, and I think drumming with them, we didn't all start teaching and drumming because we wanted to learn all region music. We started drumming because we saw a drum line or somebody play, and they weren't reading music when you saw them play. It might have been Dave Weckl, it might have been Steve Gadd, who knows, right? And it wasn't like, hey, let me play Etude number 3 from this book, Portraits in Rhythm, and show you the music, so that's why you started drumming. No, you started drumming because you watched them drumming. It was just so cool to watch them. And we forget that, and we don't do that with our students enough because we're teaching to the test. We got UIL coming up, or we got like all region coming up, or so an ensemble, and when we're all stressed out, man, you got to learn this. I think if you teach them and you just drum with them a lot, you do that like weekly, at least once or twice a week, you'll see the other things will kind of start to become easier because you're teaching them these rhythms. Hey, don't worry about how you read this. I want you to do tick-a-tat, 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 right? Oh, check it out. It's right, left, right, and then all right, you play it back, ready and go, and boom, boom, and then we'll have a session. The more you'll do that, when they see that rhythm written, they'll say, oh, they'll make the connection. Oh, that looks like that. Okay, it's 2/16 and an eighth note, and then you do a whole session on theory. This is why, and this is how that works, and you kind of make those connections. But
Laurel Mason had his 3 facets of music education: wrote to note, and then note reading. So, I mean, that's basically what you just described. This is like, do what I do, and then here's how it applies to paper, and then here's the paper, just read it yourself.
What did you call that? What did you say it does that?
Wrote to note reading.
But you said
Lowell Mason.
Who's that?
He's the father of music education.
See, man. I didn't read the manual. You know what I'm saying?
There it is. There it is. Perfect example.
I didn't read the manual. I just did it. Like this.
Perfect example.
And this person, like, what's his name again?
Cedric.
No.
Lowell Mason. Sorry. Lowell Mason. Lowell. Mason. Yep.
See, man, and I guarantee you, they learned it from doing it too. this person. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then they wrote it down. What's worked?
Yeah.
They can read the manual.
It's funny because we as a teacher we go through all these professional developments, and they'll come up with this new strategy to help students with learning and stuff like that. And I was one of those, like, ignorance is bliss. Like, I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna teach my kids, and dude, it's gonna be great. And I go to these PDs like, all right, there's this brand new strategy, or there's a strategy that we're gonna try this year that I want all the teachers, and they're teaching it to everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm listening. I'm like, all right, cool. It's like, all right, it's called gradual release. I was like, okay, this sounds interesting. And, like, the first thing we're going to do is you're going to demonstrate to the student the skill that you want them to accomplish. The next thing is they're going to do the skill with you. Okay. And then finally, they'll do the skill on their own. And I'm sitting there like, that's banned. That's banned. That's what we do every single day, thousands of times a day. Like, but for them, it's just like, well, this is just this strategy. I'm just like, but so for me, I was just like, why are band directors like? So I just thought that was just what you were supposed to do. As a student sitting in a music class, that's just the way we were taught. That's just how we did.
Well, man, this is this drumming thing and this band just in general, I think is the only thing that the test is immediate. Like, if you go in a math class and you learn about whatever equation, then you take that test, you turn that test in, and it's between you and the teacher. Because it's illegal for the teacher to start announcing your grades and showing other people your grades. So they're going to walk up to you and they're going to flip that grade, and you're going to look and, oh, man, that's not good. You know what I mean? But when it's band and you learn that music, immediately, the next rep is the test.
Yep.
If you were lied and you said, oh, I get it, and then you go to play that,
we're going to find out. We're going to find out.
And everyone's going to find out on Friday when you go out there and you play that.
Yeah.
And you play in front of everybody at that halftime show. So it's an immediate test. And so we have to have strategies that are real. We can't go on these paper strategies that other teachers try to teach with, this theoretical stuff.
Quick and efficient as well. That another thing they brought up was this thing called formative versus summative assessment. And, like, formative assessments are just checks throughout the day just to make sure kids understand what they're doing. I'm just like, band directors do that 90,000 times a minute. Like, we get done with a rep. Hey, this is this. This is this. Do you get? And here's how you fix it. Let's do it again. And I'm just like, so basically, you're seeing all of the best teaching strategies are just what band directors do, or music teachers, music performers do, music educators do. And I was just like, okay. So when I realized that, I was like, all right, they can't tell me that. I didn't say that, but that's just what it is.
I'll tell you, check this out. I'll tell you this amazing story. This speaks to your point. This old supervisor of mine, he told me a story about the principal. Like, they were telling them, you need to do your attendance. And he said, man, I never did my attendance. And the principal told him one time, man, one time I came into your class, I was going to rip you apart about the attendance. And I walked in, right, getting ready to destroy you. And he goes out, and I left. He goes, well, why didn't you say something to me? He goes, because you were teaching. You were teaching your ass off, he told him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I stood there, and I watched you teach, and I said, man, that attendance can wait. He said, let this man. He goes, you know how many classrooms I walk into and they're not doing nothing in there? They do the attendance, but they're not teaching. And, man, you were teaching your ass off. He goes, man, I had to let it go, and that's what it is. It was band directors, man.
I had an observation, and the principal, we got done with it, and we were doing our post-op. And he's like, one thing that I like about what you did was you played something and you stopped, and there was a problem, and you told them how to fix it, and then the next rep, it got better.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, that's my job. That's what I do. And it makes you wonder, like, what is everybody else doing? If that's so amazing. Like, but yeah, it's
the rest of the school is trouble.
No, but like you said, the test is immediate. It's every 30 seconds or every rep that they're doing, and it's the only thing that requires them to be perfect. It's the only thing that they'll do that requires them to shoot for perfection every single time. And that's why music kids are special, man. That's for real. So, um, I want to pick your brain a little bit um, about drum corps stuff. Are you still doing stuff with any corps or anything?
Right now, I'm not, man. The only thing that's close to a drum corps that I work with is Sparta Ignite, which is it's Sparta Indoor and Sparta Winds, and it was a group called Spirit of Sunnyvale, and it's a sound sport, and now Sparta has eaten that organization up, so now it's called Sparta Ignite. I'm writing for them. I was writing for Spirit of Sunnyvale, and I work with the Sparta Indoor, so that's kind of how I ended up making this connection with the guys. And actually, they're having camp right now, so this is the first year for that. I was doing
Were you
CrossFit
at
last year.
Were you at Crossman or Spark or
I was at
Spirit or
CrossFit.
somebody?
I was at
Crossman.
Crossman last year for 2 years, and then Genesis before. I mean, I've always done drum corps. You know what I
Genesis
mean?
is the other one. Okay,
So
I
man,
knew there was another one.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've been everywhere, man. Blue Devils B, Mandarins,
Is
Cole.
it pretty? Is it tough to
What's that?
teach drum corps
Man, that's just,
percussion wise?
I've been teaching drum corps since 2005. So, you know what I mean. So I've been full time band director. So I do high school indoor drum corps, high school indoor drum corps. And you know what I mean. And that's just what I've done. And it's funny because my parents were band directors. My father's a band director, and my mother's a band director. My brother's a drum teacher, and my sister's a dance teacher. And my little sister's a choir teacher. So
No, it's
you
in the
know,
blood.
I've always been around it, and I didn't want to do it, and that's how I became a band director because I marched drum corps and I came back. I marched drum corps my junior year and my drum corps my senior year, and when I came back after my junior year, my parents were like, "All right, you're getting ready to go into your senior year. What do you want to do with your life? Like you need to start kind of figuring out what you want to do with college." And I said, "Well, I don't know." I said, "I want to do drum corps for the rest of my life." That's what I like that. I want to be like my teacher. You know what I mean? I want to. If I could do something, I would march until I can't march anymore. And like to teach drum corps. And they said, well, there's no money in drum corps. And so my parents made a deal with me. They told me, if you become a band directors don't teach during the summer, and you can make enough money where you can just go teach drum corps. I said, all right, I'm in. I said, that sounds like a deal to me. So that's the only reason I became a band director, was to be able to teach drum corps. So you asked me, is it hard? And I've known no other way. You know what I mean? It's been my dream, like to teach drum corps and to be part of drum corps and march drum corps. And, you know what I mean? It's just like, that's all I've ever wanted to do. So I'm not doing it right now, but man, I'm doing so many things like with the activity and like work with so many people. Like, I have all students marching in it, you know what I mean? And it, this, I'm not doing it this summer, but it doesn't feel like it, you know what I mean? Like I did that. I did a 13-day tour of Poland, 2 weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago. It was like 13 workshops and 12 concerts in 13 days. I came back. I just went with UDB to Mexico to Mexico. We were in Mexico City, and then we went to this other place, and we did like this workshop. It was like 300 kids there. There were like 50 drummers there, and next week I'm going to Laredo to do a week-long camp, like with LISD, so percussion camp. And and then they invited me to go to Croatia in June.
That's amazing.
It's like a 5-day camp. So I mean, I'm not doing drum corps, man, but man, it's like it's I'm all over the place doing all this. You know what I mean? So it feels like
still loaded.
I feel like it, and it's so funny because everything happens like, I'm not doing drum corps for the first time, and all of these other opportunities that I would have had to say no if I was doing drum corps have happened. Like right at that moment when I was like, all right, I'm not gonna do it this summer, and then all this stuff started popping up, and I would like I said, I would have been scared to say yes or said no because I would have been missing drum corps, and
But these are man.
Oh,
if I could say anything, as long as you're alive, drum corps gonna be here. But them opportunities is crazy. Yes. I'm still stuck that you went to Poland to do this, and it's like these people are just reaching out to you and just.
Well, my student, his name's Niewomir. He's like a famous drummer in Poland. Like he's like a drum set player, and he takes online lessons with me since like COVID. And he just takes lessons with me because it's fun for him. You don't need the lessons. He's amazing, like jazz drummer. He play anything. He can drum too, and like so. he just likes the way I drum, and he set up this tour in Poland. You know what I mean? Workshops, like we toured all through Poland. At one point, we were like 2 hours from Berlin. You know, so and it's life changing, man. Like over there, they value art in a different way. They don't value art like that here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you get mistreated here as an artist. Over there, man, me playing the snare drum on stage was no different than somebody coming and see Ray Vaughan playing the guitar. You know what I'm saying? Like, they look at it as art the same way. You know, like you're like Miles Davis playing the trumpet. You know, and you know that was funny because I'm really into Miles Davis, man. I've always been. He's always inspired me, and I always wondered why him and John Coltrane. Look at John Coltrane right there. I always wondered why they went to Germany and like why they went to France and why like they loved it so much. It's like, man, you're a big star here. Why would you go? But because people appreciate art different over there, man. Like they don't, man. It's like I went to a jazz club with my student, and he did a gig after a workshop, and we went and we played a gig that night. And man, it was like a scene out of Mo Better Blues, man. It was like, dude, I'm serious, man. It, you know, the capital of Poland is like New York in the 90s right now, you know, art wise, and graffiti everywhere, all over the whole city. You know what I mean? And it is like, dude, it's something else, man. And I would imagine you'll find that all over Europe. You know.
Oh yeah. Drum corps can wait. I'd have definitely done that too. Yeah, that's too cool.
It was humbling and life changing, and it made me also like practice a lot to go perform. Like I hadn't performed like that. Like we did concerts, you know what I mean, and I had to play on stage, and you know, it's just, so it was like nerve wracking. I hadn't got a chance to perform like that, man, since like 2008. You know what I mean? So I had to practice like a bunch.
It's a different type of practice too.
I know that.
It's a different kind of practice. Yeah, exactly. It was like, you can't go play in front of people. You better be right. You know, and that's the kind of person I am. I don't want to half-ass it. So I put those hours in, and exactly. it woke up the artist in me like that was asleep. You know what I mean? I was still making music and doing everything, but sometimes, man, being a band director and teaching every day, they beat that out of you. It's just like, oh, you're doing too much. You should be focused on this. And you know, like I said, it all happened at the right time. Like right when I was, right, I left the profession, and then this happened. And so it's been a blessing, man. It's been different. You know what I mean? So
that's good. That's amazing.
Kind of went sideways on it all, man. But you know, drum corps is definitely something I love, and it is hard to teach drum corps. And it's changed. The activity has changed a lot. You know what I mean? Like the kind of kid you teach, and the way they want to be talked to. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think it's everywhere. It's not just in drum corps. You know, like when I marched drum corps, I wanted to be just like my teacher. And I know if he talked and he was drumming, I was watching, man. I wasn't trying to practice. I wasn't saying anything. You know what I mean? And I mean, man, they were hard on us. They were mean to us. You know what I mean? But it was like love. You know what I mean? Like you know. And now I think some people abuse the system, and they have to pass all these rules. But I think that, you know, the pendulum is swinging to a point, man, where it's like the inmates running the jail at this point. You know what I mean? Because they give these kids these surveys, and they have them write these surveys. And man, sometimes, man, I'm all about it, but man, you got to be able to read between the lines on these surveys, man. Sometimes these kids, if you give them a survey to do at the end of the summer, they haven't had a chance to digest what they've been through. You know what I'm saying? They need to go home. They need to lay in their bed. They need 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a month, to go back to where they're from. And people say, "Damn, you got good."
Yeah.
But I hated that guy for telling me everything I did wrong all summer. Maybe I shouldn't have written that in the survey. Maybe I should have had some time to digest this. And this is happening to all over the activity, man. People are getting canceled. You know what I mean? People that are G's and legends in the game over kids that haven't had time to truly digest these lessons, man. And I know from personal experience, man, if I could have written some stuff about my teachers, man, I might have written the wrong thing at that time. I love all my teachers. I love all the lessons that they taught me. You know, I've gone back and I've apologized to some of my teachers for some of the things the way I was when I was a kid. You know what I mean? I mean, man, So I think that it's amazing to give young people their voice, but I think that there needs to be a filter. You know what I mean? A filtering system when it gets to, and it can't. And some people they'll use it to their advantage. They'll say, "Hey, man, you know, they're not happy, and they might not be happy with
and it
you,
gets twisted,
and they get twisted and turned around." You know what I mean? So there needs to be a little bit of a filter with it. You know what I mean? And I think we're still trying to find our way with all this because it's still new. Like all the, you know what I mean? The surveys and the voice, and I'll speak on a different point with it too, man. I think that you have two sides. You know what I mean? Because the youth in this world, they are the culture. They decide what shoes are cool. They decide they are the heartbeat of this thing. And that is how it always will be. You know what I mean? Okay. But you have the older people, they have the keys to the doors. They decide what jobs, they decide if you're going to get that money for the funding for all this stuff. Right. And so you have both sides of it all. You know what I mean? You have the youth, and then you have and I think there's a wedge right now being drawn. You have the youth saying, if the older person disagrees with the youth, they say, "Man, look at Uncle over here, man, he lost his mind." You know what I mean? Okay, and so they'll say that you lost your mind, and then the older person says, "Well, you don't know what you're talking about because you're a kid." But I think that what needs to happen here, and there's a wedge, like since COVID, it's got deep, and further apart than ever before. And so I think that like what needs to happen right now is that the older people need to respect and listen to the younger people's opinions and their views. And you just say, "Man, I totally understand what you're saying, and I feel you, and that's super cool. Have you thought about it doing it this way instead of telling them?" And
see,
I think, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say you talking how we like to hear judges talk on tapes. Like if you're going to criticize something, give me a example or give me a true reason. Okay, why did you say that? And then if we get to critique, you don't have nothing to say, but this number and this score don't make sense. It's like you kind of half it or whatever, or you get your sheets back and there's nothing written on the seat or whatever. It's like, yeah.
So I think that we need to figure out how to communicate. Basically, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
One side to the other better, both ways. Because if the youth decides, if they're the culture, they're the heartbeat, but the older people can't listen to that heartbeat. You know what I mean, man? We're not going to decide what's cool. You can't bring back Echo Unlimited because you thought it was cool back in the day.
Echo.
You just can't. You can't. It's not going to be cool anymore. You know what I'm saying? But the youth can. Let me tell you, somebody who's 17, 18 just gets to start wearing that all the time, and the right person, and it's cool. It's back. That's what happened to Champion. Remember?
I was just about to knock over my cup.
What happened? I want to say Asics, right? They were running. Now they're like $500 a pair. You know what I mean? Because it's the youth that decides it. So, I think that like that's like, with me, that's been a big shift in my mind, has been understanding that. And like the best people, the best artists, man, Miles Davis was like that. Prince was like that. Lenny Kravitz, you know what I mean? They know how to listen to the heartbeat of the culture, which is the youth.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to, man. Otherwise, and I think that's the big disconnect right now in drum corps. You know what I mean? Is that the young kids, they want to be talked to a certain way or taught a certain way, but it's because they don't understand. Like, you know what I'm saying? They don't understand the viewpoint of getting pushed past your limit, and you're going to get talked to crazy a little bit because you're getting pushed right there. And this is not a fun thing, but we're trying to get you to the point where fun is not even the right word. Of when you reach this level of greatness. Fun is that I don't even know the word for being that good. You know what I mean? It's not the fun's not the word. Fun is a game. This is not a game. We're not playing games anymore, and we're trying to get you there. So like, how do we? And I think we just need to learn how to translate both ways.
I think your top corps have figured that out, and I think if you kind of look at the personality of some of those corps, and the two that come to mind are Blue Devils and Blue Coats. I think they probably have a really good mix of, we're going to do things to keep the kid interested, but we're going to show you how to do it in a way to 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 show excellence and execution. And and
Yes.
I think some of your, I think you see it in all levels. I mean, I know even me when I talk to my middle school kids, it's a conversation. Exactly how I'm talking to you now is how I talk to them when I teach. It's a conversation. Like, I have information that you want to know in order to get better. I'm not talking down to you. I'll take your suggestions. We can talk about stuff, and I'm not afraid to tell them why something is the way that it is. We will talk about rules at the beginning of the year, and I'll say, listen, this is why this rule's in place. Do I necessarily agree with all the rules? No. Some of them I think are not smart, but I tell them this is why it's here. This is why we enforce it. And I think when you're willing to have a conversation with them and they can feel like they're heard and they can feel like a person, that's when you can start to move mountains. So
remember but now you're talking like real, like in teaching world, like what you're talking about. That's the real. But when you talk about the Blue Devils and the Blue Coats, man, really, man, they're putting things together, so they don't really have to push these kids past that point. You know what I'm saying? Like when you open up the box of a Blue Devil member or a Blue Coat member, they come out the box ready to. You can step on the gas and go 100 miles an hour with that kid. They're ready to go. When you open up the box for a kid that's in 15th place or 19th place, you're talking about what we were talking about earlier, teaching in the gutter.
Yeah.
So sometimes you got to push that kid to another level that they've never been at. They don't even know how to drum right yet. They don't know what it is to be great. And so they do have it figured out as far as an organizational standpoint and design standpoint, for sure. They are not the best by mistake. You know what I'm saying? But they don't always have to have those hard conversations with kids because they come to them already with 2 or 3 years of experience in drum corps. Yeah. They've gone through those conversations. They've had those tough times other places. So, it's hey, but one can argue if you want that, you go teach it the best too, right?
Yeah.
Because we've talked about it before a long time ago that a lot of these top groups, like you were just talking about, like top drum corps, the top indoor groups and stuff like that, some of them may not take you if you have not marched somewhere else before.
No, for sure they won't.
And they want you to already have the idea of what drum corps feels like. They don't have time to teach you what drum corps feels like. Getting up every day, waking up, pushing past your tired point, blah, 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 12-hour day, whatever, laundry, all of that stuff. They ain't got time they don't want to have to deal with that.
For sure.
Right? So that's why they take these kids who've already gone through those things. And sometimes you see that. And we've talked about, if you're lucky to be one of those who haven't, then your talent level and your just presence is so high that they already can see in you that you're not going to be an issue.
Well, you come from
even though you've never marched, and you know how hard that is.
Yeah. You come from a pedigree. You've already been taught by your school is Chino Hills, or your school, you know what I'm saying, is already you've already come from these teachers that have already put you in that situation. So you haven't marched drum corps, but you've been taught by drum corps people.
Because you're at a level that they see that and they can recognize.
Rare. It's
really rare.
Yeah, you're not gonna. I mean, I guarantee I'll go right now and I'll go down the line at any of the top 3 drum corps, and whoever's gonna be top 3, and there's not a rookie in the line. You know what I mean? Like they have indoor, they have some type of high level, and it's not that they want that kid, is that they get so many good kids. Those are the best ones that they have to choose those. They're the better ones. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They have a lot of experience. They know how to audition. They know what to do. But yeah, man.
But I guess, we pretty much answered all of the questions, and we fused a couple of them together.
I kind of went through. I was like, "Yeah, we hit that one.
Yeah,
we hit that one." But you know what? This is talk shop.
Yeah, we always do something fun at the end. We just ask, what's your favorite drum corps or drum corps show, and then if you have a favorite indoor percussion show, what is that?
Well, my favorite drum corps show is Star of Indiana, 1993.
Oh,
So,
Did a video on that one.
I was about to say, have you seen it?
I think we did a video on that one.
Pretty sure Star is the one that was up.
Yeah, man. It's that show changed drum corps and continues to, change drum corps. It was definitely something different, and it constant winning, and I love that part about it. You know what I mean? They didn't win because they stayed true to their vision. You know what I'm saying? And that's my favorite part about it. It's that rocky story. You know what I mean?
Nice.
So, and then my favorite indoor, and
that's tough. It's so many.
Blue Knights 2000. You know what I
mean? My group.
But I see a lot of cool stuff, man. I'll tell you what was good this year. Rhythm X.
Oh my gosh!
Man, they were super good.
Any other year, man.
Yeah, man. They
hands down.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of cool stuff. I saw some videos of some Broken City stuff from this year. They definitely were playing super high levels. RCC. I mean, all three of the three top ones, right? But man, I love the indoor activity, and I love drum corps. People always ask me like, which one do you like more? But man, I just like that they're so different from each other, and then
that part.
Every once in a while one starts to bleed into the other one, and then you'll see years that it's more drum corps influenced than indoor. You know what I mean? And I just love it. I love it all, man. I love percussion ensembles. I love, you know what I mean? People drumming on pads. I like to see people from Indonesia making their own drum pads, and you hear roosters in the background on their videos.
Yes, sir.
I love that somebody can have a connection with somebody, and I tell people this all the time. I say, chicken on a roll, right? AB double beat. I said, from here to Japan, that's you can tap it off. You can go bub up, bub up, bub up. You got it, tap, and they'll know it. It's part of the culture. It's in our DNA now at this point. You know what I mean? And so I just love it all, man.
And that's honestly that's the best way to be as a percussionist. And I use the word percussionist with a capital P. Enjoy all of it because it's all great. It all has its place. I love indoor season. I love drum corps season. I like cool percussion ensemble stuff. Like it allows you to enjoy much more of the activity, open your brain up a little bit more, and that's why I always try to preach to my kids like, let's not just be a good outdoor line, or let's not just be a good indoor group. Let's be real rounded. Like let's do well on March Midfield, and let's do well in all district tryouts or all state tryouts. And
that part.
That way you're not just a one-trick pony. Because there's a lot, we run across all the time. Man, that drum line's hot. And you put a Cerrone in front of them, and they're just like, what? And it's just like,
exactly.
But you just played some of the most hardest hybrid rudiments I've seen in my life on second base. And then, okay. But yeah. Do you have any other hobbies? Do you have time for hobbies?
I was for 10 years. I fought Muay Thai,
okay,
martial arts. Did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu also, you know what I mean? So
yes, martial artist too.
Yeah, so I'm also a Buddhist, you know what I mean? So, I go to the temple. My wife, she teaches at the temple.
Okay.
She has Sunday school, right? It's called the Buddhist Family, and my son's involved in that. He does lion dance and stuff. So I make electronic music, you know what I mean? I create a lot of music. So pretty much at this point, all my hobbies in my life have all kind of meshed into one, you know what I mean? So I haven't been training Muay Thai as much, but I have some students and they come, we set up mats in my garage and they come and they take classes with me and stuff here in my house. So
that's
I kind of try to learn to put it all together, you know what I mean? Into one thing, one life, my family, that's why I love teaching online lessons so much, because I can teach my lessons and that'll take me through my day, and then I can go right down and have a break or something. I'm hanging out with my son, or he can come for a knock, and you know what I mean? So sometimes being tied up at the band hall as a full-time teacher it was a little bit much for me.
I think that's because of how you approached your life and how you're approached doing what you're doing. that allowed for you to have that mesh between hobby and career. You know, you've heard this saying, you know, you do the thing you love, you never work a day in your life.
For sure.
So, so yeah, you might be busy, but I mean, everything that you're doing is what you want to do. You're not doing anything that you don't want to do.
I don't have a boss.
Yeah,
that's what I tell people. I had to check. I had to check a couple people. You know what I mean? Like they get to talking like start using like talking to me like they're my boss or something, and I was like, whoa, time out. I don't. I said, let me tell you something, man. I don't. My boss died in 2016. You know, when my dad died, I said I don't have a boss right now. I said the closest thing I have to a boss is my wife. You know what I mean? and I said, but I don't have a boss, man. I work on projects with people, and I said, and sometimes other people do take the lead, and that's fine. You know what I mean? You can take the lead in the project, but you're not my boss, man. Like, you know, so let's be respectful and let's be, you know what I mean? Like, let's be cool and let's be chill and we never have a problem. You know what I mean? So,
there it is.
That's what's up. Well, we could go on forever.
For sure, guys.
Definitely want to have you back again. Talk some shop. You mentioned electronic music. I have a music production class sometimes at my middle school. So instead of them hearing me talk about stuff, it might be cool to have somebody else who actually does it to talk about. But no, there's plenty of stuff that we could talk about, especially about how you went about getting to where you are, whether it's, you know, publishing books, your internet, social media, content creation situation. Because there's a lot of kids that want to get into that and think they have to do it a certain way. And sometimes it could be a flash in the pan.
I will tell you this, man. I will tell you this. Everybody wants to be a lion until it's time to start doing lion things. You know
that boy.
Would
you know, and that's that'd be my biggest advice to anybody, man. If you want, you better make sure you want what you're asking for, because the worst thing that can happen is you see success with it if you didn't really want it. That's the test. You know what I mean? When you're seeing, man, sometimes I get on these flights and I'm going all these places and I'm tired, man. I'm tired. But you know what? I remind myself, I get to do this.
Yep. You know? Get to do this. Not have to do this.
You know what I mean? Man, that gets me hyped. I get hyped. You know what I mean? Like I could flip this table right now. I already got me hyped. You know, like you know, and I have the energy immediately. Like boom, I get to do this, man. I said, be grateful. And so I see a lot of people, they get burnt out because they didn't really want to do. They wanted what they saw someone else have. They got jealous. They said, man, I wish I had that. Be careful. You know what I mean? So anyway,
that's
been a pleasure, guys. You guys are awesome.
That's a perfect way to kind of end this.
Yes.
So folks watching, and I'll make sure you watch all of it. I should probably say that at the beginning, but anyway, let us know in the comments down below. If you have any questions for Carlos, you can put them in the comment section. We read them and we can get them to him, or you can get them to him yourself. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify. Carlos, you want to shout out any of your socials or anything?
Man, you can find me at lefthandpathdrumbook.com or at lefthandpathdrumbook on Instagram. You know, it's the easiest way. If you have any questions, man, I'm real good, man. There is no like business or we or any of that. If you're gonna get a response out of my Left Hand Path drum book, it's gonna be me. You know what I mean? Always. Authentic. I sign every book. I respond to every message unless you're on some foolishness. You know what I mean?
Right.
But you know, if you have any questions, hit me up, man. Always want to talk. You know what I mean? And
that's all.
That's why I do this.
Like I said, I've been scrolling through the website. Everything looks really, really nice. I'm gonna have to buy 3,000 or 4,000 books.
No, each kid gets their own book.
Each kid gets their own book. But it's a lot of really good stuff there. And in a world, like I said, with the world of percussion pedagogy changing the way that it is, to have a nice, fresh approach is super important. And he's got his pulse, hand on the pulse of what's going on in the percussion world. So, Carlos, man, it's been a pleasure. I'm glad I got to talk to you. This will not be the last time.
Same,
for
guys.
Sure. So, for Will and Carlos, my name is Cedric. This has been another episode of Percussion Talk. Perc Talk on the Backhash guys. Yeah. Stay tuned. We got more stuff coming. I don't know what, but it's coming. All right. You guys take care. Peace.
Mahalo.